Good morning, guys.
Good
How are
Welcome
you?
morning.
back. Good. Welcome back to the Back to Business podcast. I
Just
think
hold
I'm
on.
becoming a
Before we get
regular.
started, I need to interrupt for a second. What is that trophy behind Mike's shoulder? That one
This is
right
a
there.
World Cup trophy.
Okay, and is that the Iraqi flag? Because I don't see it.
No, but shout out to the Iraqi national soccer team for making it for the
Go
first time in
Iraq.
40 years. Go
When is the
Iraq.
game?
I love it. Um, I think it's starting up in like 3 weeks, the World Cup.
Okay, so we're going to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Iraq game.
Fun stuff. Yeah, we are. We have a game in Philadelphia. We have a game in Boston, and we have a game in Toronto.
Which one we going to?
All of them.
Do they have to win one to get to the next, or how does it work?
No, it's group stage. They play 3 games. And I was looking on the online apps to see like what the odds were, which for $100 you can win like $150,000 if they win the World Cup.
Iraq.
Yeah, which seems like the
So no,
biggest waste of money, but
so I'm assuming that means you bet enough that we win like $100 million.
no, no, which is why they're gonna win.
Okay, exactly, exactly. Sorry, Jessica. Take it away. Don't just ignore
So,
us.
so back to business. Welcome back to the Back to Business podcast. We're here with Shaya, Baum, Mike, Kassab, and myself. I'm becoming a regular.
Love
Don't
it.
tell
So
Sarah.
I think she'll be okay with it.
She probably would.
Um, so what's new? What's been happening with everyone this week?
Mike, you
Not
go
much
first.
here,
Tell
but
us.
literally nothing here. But I mean, look at that beautiful background behind Shaya. Why don't you tell us where you are?
I am in Puerto Rico, actually, and I am working on this program for one of our nonprofits that focuses on providing jobs to former inmates, people out on parole, people convicted of misdemeanors, things like that. Basically, people who have records to try and expedite the process of getting them integrated back into the workforce. So we got a whole bunch of companies together and said, okay, what can we do to streamline things so that when someone comes out, they can become a truck driver, a mechanic, or jobs that there's a huge demand in the marketplace there, and there's just no process to get people to the point where they can seize those opportunities. And the problem is when someone comes out of prison and they don't have much, they don't have an opportunity to get back in the workforce, and in turn it puts them in positions where they end up back in prison. So trying to prevent that from happening, and we've had a lot of success so far, and now we're looking to scale it.
It's beautiful. That's awesome. Let me know
Yeah,
what I can do to help.
I need your checkbook.
You have it. It's your checkbook now.
That's true. I'm trying to think of something else that you'll have a harder time saying no to. And I'll come up with something. You know what I need? I need you to do the training.
Oh God,
So
no.
specifically the mechanic work, we need someone out in the garage to demonstrate. And rumor has it that one time you tried to fix a swimming pool. You want to tell us about that?
I didn't try to fix it, but I can't talk about it because I'm still trying to get warranty to cover it.
The worst idea ever, Jessica. This guy calls me up. He's fixing the pool.
Did it get fixed?
Yeah, someone else came and
No,
had to fix the damage he did.
no, they haven't even been able to fix it yet.
Sorry, the
Like
damage he
summer's
did was
around the
so bad.
corner.
The damage he did was so bad that no one was able to fix it.
At this point, you just need to get a whole new house and call it a day.
It was all from one day of rain. Oh my God. PTSD kicking in.
I think you're going to do a great job with the training program for the mechanics. I'm really looking forward
I
to
think
how
I,
well the
I am.
trucks run.
Yeah, I'll show them how to fill a tank of gas first, and then we'll just go from there.
You know where the gas tank is on a truck?
No,
Good
no
luck.
idea.
Okay, so let's get back to business.
This wasn't business.
This wasn't business. This was just a fun time.
Uh,
Um, so New York lawmakers are trying to challenge a wrongful conviction act, a bill that would make it easier for people to return to court with new evidence if they originally pleaded guilty. Right now, New York has stricter limits than some other states when it comes to reopening convictions tied to plea deals. Shaya, now that you're helping people getting rehabilitate once they come out of prison, what are your thoughts on your challenging the Wrongful Convictions Act?
So, and Mike's also very involved in this. It's not just me, but the I think that the law is. I think there needs to be an opportunity for someone to reopen a plea, and I'll tell you why. It's a complicated topic, obviously, because if someone pleads guilty, you're out of, you're kind of assuming they got a reduced sentence because they didn't go to trial. So at that point, they shouldn't be able. Logically, you would say, okay, they shouldn't be able to then challenge that later if they change their mind because obviously they're guilty, right? But unfortunately, many people are, because of the risk of being convicted at trial, are pleading guilty earlier to take a lesser sentence, knowing that there's racism within a system, or for various, they don't have proper representation, they don't have access to money to fight the case properly, and therefore they say, okay, my downside risk here by pleading guilty is I can go to prison for X amount of time or have to pay X fine, but my upside is I'm not looking at 30, 50, 75 years. I get my life back. And many people, once they get in the system, say, hey, maybe not now I got access to resources, or maybe now I see the system is so bad and prison is so terrible that, I'm willing to take that risk. And there's so much corruption within the system that I think that it's important for people to have the opportunity to get a second look, even when they plead guilty. I'll give you an example of a case. I was contacted by a guy a couple years ago, and he was accused of I think it was like sexual touching of a minor, which is something that I feel like, as far as I'm concerned, you take the key and you throw it away if someone touches a kid. However, when he looked at all the facts of the case, the person who accused him was the dad of the girl who he had a dispute with over some drug deal, and he had cell phone records showing that he was extremely far away at the time of the crime. And he had an offer to plead guilty to a lesser charge because the evidence wasn't very strong, other than the eyewitness testimony, which was the dad, and get 2 years in prison, or risk going to trial and get 20 years and be on a sex offender list for life. And he came to me and said, what do you think I should do? And my initial reactions back then was, hey, you're innocent, go to trial, right? And then as I thought about it and got into the weeds a little bit and learned more and more about how the criminal justice system works in America, I understood why he was really, really considering pleading guilty. A black man doesn't necessarily, look like, a guy who would commit this type of crime, but you have no idea how a jury can perceive you, right? And what does look like even mean for someone who's going to commit a crime like this, right? And you have no idea. And he was terrified that he was going to throw his life away. He had a little baby, and he said, if I go for 2 years, I serve 1.5, I'll be back in the baby's life in a year and a half. Whereas if I go to trial and 12 jurors don't believe me, what do I do? And so he pled guilty. And it always really sat on my chest that this guy went to prison, and I know he didn't do it. Like, I know definitively, when I looked at all the evidence, he did not do it. And he took the guilty plea because of the potential downside of going to trial.
Yeah, and that could be understandable. Somebody facing that fear of spending quite a bit of their life in jail or in prison for a crime they didn't commit. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, to Shaya's story, that's so tragic, and it's sad that that's one example, but literally every day that's happening to someone. Someone's life is getting ruined because of the system. Even not saying that the system is bad, but this what New York is introducing, I think, is a step in the right direction. I don't think it um necessarily means that they're getting soft on crime, right? But hey, like maybe we need to go back and look into some of this stuff. And I'm okay with that. I'm all about checks and balances. And I'm all about like self-auditing. And I think that this kind of falls in that category where they're trying to take accountability for the mistakes of the past.
Jessica, let me turn this on you for a second. You were a prosecutor, right? So I'm always curious from a prosecutor's perspective, like, how what's the fear of getting it wrong, right? Like, there has to be some. I mean, anyone with a conscience, like, if you charge someone and you have the whole weight of the government behind you, so inevitably you have so much more power than the person on the other side, no matter what, no matter how wealthy they are. But particularly the people that you were charging, right? Most of them had public defenders without a lot of resources. from the prosecutor's perspective, do you have this fear of, am I getting this right?
So, as an assistant prosecuting attorney, I think a lot of my job was doing due diligence. Sometimes you would have people like from the police, like, hey, I have this guy in custody rushing you to, you know, get this case charged because he's timing out. And I said, well, I need this, this, and this. And without it, I didn't want to go forward because that was my biggest fear. Because just charging someone could ruin their whole life. Even if we dismiss it down the line, they could lose their job, their reputation is at stake, the stress, the financial burden that they go through. So I always did my due diligence before charging someone to make sure that I didn't put myself in that position or someone else because I think you have to look at the full picture before going forward. I can't speak for everyone, but I think the way I was trained was to fully have as much evidence as possible at that time of charging before making a decision.
How much pressure do the police and detectives put on the prosecutors to charge someone even if they don't have enough evidence, just so they have an excuse to hold them? Or because some of the cases that I've seen, and again, it could be I'm just getting the individual ones that fell outside the norm, and that's possible, but I'm skeptical. And I believe that, I think Mike referenced earlier, I believe that there are so many more that, unfortunately, people fall into this box where it's like, well, we have just enough that maybe we can charge him. He's not going to have the resources to post bail or fight, get a good attorney. So then he'll plead guilty. And was it like 99% of cases plead out, right?
So yeah,
So,
there are a lot of sorry.
no, that's okay. I'm just curious from the prosecutor's perspective, how you guys see it.
So, I mean, we were always taught that don't let anyone rush us. We charge the case, we have that charging decision, we have that charging power. So, even if someone's like, "Hey, what's the status? What's the status of this case?" I wouldn't really fall into that pressure. So, pressure is how you take it. Someone could take that as a ton of pressure. Someone could say that, "Oh, that's nothing." For me, it didn't mean much. It just meant that, um, this person was in custody. I had a certain time to review it, but I wasn't going to make a decision until I had everything, all the ducks in a row before making that decision. But I do
Interesting.
think
Okay.
there's a change from prosecution from 20, 30 years ago to now. I think there's a lot more technology that really helps us make our charging decisions. For example, phone data, getting a pinpoint of where this person was and locating that they were exactly at the spot really helps make a decision. Ring camera footage. Almost every household has a ring camera now. Seeing someone come in and out of a house, seeing the neighbor have a ring camera. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence that is available now that assists in making charging decisions that I don't think was available 20, 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
So that's my input as a former assistant prosecuting attorney.
It's a different perspective because the cases Mike and I get are the ones where they seem so glaringly obvious that they should have never been charged. But again, I don't know if we're getting the 1% or that's the norm. And there's this underlying massive issue. Like obviously any case is an issue, but it's hard to know whether it's at scale or we're just getting the outliers.
Yeah, I can't speak on the cases you reviewed, but from my experience, that's what I went through.
Okay.
Right. So last week we talked quite a bit about um, Israel's relation with the UAE. And then we went into talking about the Abraham Accords, and Shaya made a comment that he thinks the Abraham Accords will be expanded. And lo and behold, this week in the news, uh, President Trump is pushing for additional Muslim nations to join the Abraham Accords. Would like to lead
Uh,
us off in this conversation.
Shaya,
Mike, you take
great,
this one.
great, great foresight on this. I don't know how you do it. I
You got to know a guy.
yeah. I think this is great news. when the Abraham Accords happened back in 2020, it was great news. And now that it's expanding, actually in 2020, some of the countries that were listed, I was like, okay, this is weird. Like these are four, like I think it was four Arab countries. And I was like, it's like a weird um, set of countries. But now seeing it progress, I had to look at a calendar to see what year we were in. This is sad. We're in 2026 now. Um, and and now you have like a lot of bigger players in the Middle East that are kind of being not pushed to join, but invited to join. And I think this is a big, huge deal because when I seen it at first, and I was like, okay, Sudan, and I think was it Algeria, one of the North African countries. So I was like, these are just like I don't want to use the word meaningless countries, right? But like, what are they really going to do? But now you have players like Saudi Arabia coming in. I think what like Turkey is even being invited, even though that's like a stretch. But it's really exciting stuff, and I see like the potential for what doors are going to open, if this happens. So very optimistic about this.
So I think taking what Mike said a step further, I think there was this misconception in the Middle East that until we'll call it the Palestinian issue was dealt with between Israel and the Palestinians, that there would be no peace between Israel and its neighbors. And in Trump 1, they took that kind of 70-year theory and threw it out the window and said, okay, the Palestinian issue, and you could spend months debating the Palestinian issue. So let's put that to the side and let's say it is an issue, right? And let's forget the who, what, where, and when, and why, and just say, okay, that issue cannot be resolved easily, and it's not being resolved. We've tried. So they said, why don't we put that aside, and instead of waiting for that to happen, show the Palestinians there is another path, and show the amount of business, the amount of commerce and medicine and technology that is now going on between the Arab countries that joined the Abraham Accords and Israel. It's mind-boggling. I think I mentioned on last week's episode there are more kosher restaurants in Dubai than there are in Michigan, and it's not even close. I mean, it's unbelievable how you can walk around. I think Jews in Dubai feel more safe walking around with a yarmulke than Jews in America, which is, in my lifetime, is something I never thought I would see happen. So they took this theory and they pushed the Palestinian issue to the side and said, look, when you have leaders that are willing to come to the table to represent what is in their people's best interests, we're going to work on that issue. But until then, Israel can make peace with all of its other neighbors and show the world an example of what could be. And it's been unbelievably wildly successful. And I think the fact that it's President Trump is now pushing other Arab countries to join, I think they will. I think for the first time, the Arab street is more accepting of it, so the leaders have an excuse to join. I think the leaders, and I know the leaders historically, many of them have had relations with Israel behind the scenes, but because the people on the street didn't support it, they're worried about their, predominantly Arab countries are dictatorships, and they're from monarchies, dictatorship, king, whatever, different formats. But the point is, they're concerned about being overthrown, and if the people don't support it, then they're worried about it. Now, with the Arab street kind of changing sentiments, we're starting to see the Arab countries openly float out ideas of having these agreements. I think President Trump just voiced what everybody else already knows is happening. And I think when it comes from him, it's almost like every single time they float these little trial balloons, like you already know they're halfway there and they're just setting the tone for what's about to happen. One of the most interesting things he said, and I don't know if there's anything behind this is something I was completely unaware of, was he floated the idea of the Islamic Republic of Iran joining. And I don't think that's going to be part of this deal. But the fact that he even threw it out there, to me, is something that's like so out of left field. You can never imagine it, Mike. But hey, I never thought Dubai, Morocco, all these other countries, Bahrain would make peace with Israel. So it's exciting. I think I referenced it last week. Mike and I talk about it all the time. I think October 7th was obviously a horrific tragedy. No words can accurately describe the pain that was inflicted on innocent civilians. But I also think that since then, there are opportunities that have opened up that we never thought we'd see in our lifetime.
Yeah, for sure. It's exciting stuff.
What do you think that means for Israel in the next 5 years and the Middle East as a whole in the next 5 years? How does that look like? Shire, Mike.
Mike, you want to take it?
I could. I'll give my 2 cents. I
Go for
mean,
it.
in 5 years. I mean, I'm thinking 5 years ago where it was. So in 5 years, it's going to be so much easier to travel. You know, when I traveled to Israel, I wanted to go to Iraq after, and I couldn't just directly fly to Iraq from there. And it was just like all these extra steps, right? Like you have to go to another country, and then you have to wait over there for a day, and then you have to fly into that country. Like, why can't I just get on a plane in 2026, right? And I did that without looking at the calendar this time. Um, why can't I just hop on a
You'll
plane and
forget
go
by
go
next time.
travel? Yeah, literally. Um, but especially I know I mentioned this like every time, but as a Chaldean Iraqi born US citizen, right? Um, I feel I have ties there. Like I want to be able to go visit that region, right? And see walk the footsteps that my grandparents walked and their parents before them. But in 5 years, I mean, if there's like peace, right? And everyone kind of acknowledges everyone's suffering that has happened, right? Because there's been suffering on all sides of every one of these countries. Um, if we can just get past that and say, hey, there's a path forward, right? You're gonna see a lot of like um I don't know, just like sharing in technology and I don't know like what it's gonna turn into in 5 years, but I'm just seeing like this picture of just like nice Spartans and sunshine and like so it's a very like good outlook on how it's gonna be. I just can't put into words. I probably try to draw it or something. I don't know.
I think it's I think we have some historic precedent to look at, right? So I think you can look at what's happened in the last 5 years with the current Abraham Accords in those countries, and you say, okay, look at the amount of commerce, look at the amount of medicine and technology, drip irrigation. I mean, look, Israel, everybody knows this, is second only to the US when it comes to patents and technology, right? Literally in the world. So all of that technology is now being used in the Arab countries who joined the Abraham Accords. Hell, there was an Iron Dome that went to Dubai, right? During the Iran war. So I think that the amount of trade that's going to be going on between countries, specifically for me, one of the biggest things is medicine. Israel's a powerhouse in healthcare. A lot of the medicine that we have is developed in Israel. Um, and the Arab countries, it's like to get some of the medicine to Iraq, you have to go through so many third parties because they can't buy directly from Israel because they don't have an agreement in place with Israel, which is crazy. Your people should have access to medicine and whatever the best medicine's out there. Who cares who made it? But because it was made
Right.
in Israel, they can't put that on the box. You have to rebrand it, rebox it, even though they're ending up with the exact same medicine. So I think we have precedents here. We know what's going to happen as these countries join, and it's going to be really mutually beneficial for everybody involved. It's a very exciting time. I think that we're going to see it before the election in November, at least the first domino to fall. I think we'll see some countries join, and it's going to change the Middle East forever. Generational change. And you
Well,
think
let's
about
hope
it,
for.
how think about one thing. How much how much would the world benefit when countries are investing in their own people instead of investing in destroying other countries, right? Like you think about it. How much do
Yeah.
you think October 7th cost Iran, which funded Hamas? How much do you think Iran spends on Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis? You're talking about funding these organizations to the tunes of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, while the people in
Hmm.
Iran barely have electricity and running water. So like if you can change that mentality to okay, you're not destroying this country. That's never going to happen. All your neighbors have peace with this country. Why don't you take that money and invest it in the education of your own people? How much do the people on the street benefit from that? And the answer is I don't think you could put any data point or any figure on that. But it's kind of beyond comprehension how beneficial it could be.
Maybe once
Uh,
the Abraham Accords take effect, we'll do a tour of the Middle East altogether.
I've been to
And
the I don't know, Mike. Mike, did you ever go to the Abrahamic house in Dubai?
no, no, I've never been to
We
Dubai.
get- on our next trip we
I've been.
should
It's
we
really
should
cool.
stop there. You went, Jessica?
I've been. Yeah, it's right next to the Louvre Museum
Yeah,
in Abu Dhabi.
yeah, it's beautiful, Mike. So there's a synagogue, a church, and a mosque, and then like this area in the middle where everything comes together. They're all the same size. It's very, 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 very cool to experience. And it's moving to be there. Honestly, thinking that in such a short period of time you have that in an Arab country.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to check it out.
Yeah, we'll go
It's
on
very
our next trip.
peaceful.
Maybe after we go to Ethiopia and then Israel, we'll stop in Dubai on the way back. What do you think?
I love how easy you make it sound. We'll stop in
Well,
Dubai on the way back.
well, yeah, it's a pitch and a putt.
All right, I'm in.
You guys will
Okay.
have to send me some pictures from there.
No, Jessica. When he says he's in, that means I got to get our travel agent to book his flight today, or else he won't be in.
I'm sticking.
I
All right,
just don't plan. I don't plan well. Tell me 2 days before, and you have a better chance.
and he will cancel twice. Also, he's done that before to me.
Hey, how could you?
Well, he starts the conversation with, "Listen, I'm sorry," and then I said, "Okay, where are you not going?"
It's
Okay,
really
but at least he
hard,
shows up at
Jessica.
50% of the time.
What was that?
At least he shows up at least 50% of the time.
I don't know. We're trending. We're trending the other way due to recent events. He
Yeah.
he was batting 1,000 in the beginning. Like when you first meet someone and you're all like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and then like over time, he's like, "Well,
Over time, like, man, this guy's crazy.
right, right."
It's just hard. It's hard with the kids, but we're
It's
making it
hard. I
work.
mean, it's challenging. He's got a lot going on, and we're only talking about future generations not having war and millions of people dying. But it's hard for him, and he's got a lot going on, so he has to pick and choose. And hopefully he'll be on the right side of history, but we'll see. We wouldn't want him
Speaking of
to
Shia,
overburden himself.
It's no pressure. Yeah, no pressure.
No, no.
speaking of Shia putting pressure on Mike, how did your Shabbat go?
I was great. I think it lasted 5 minutes. Best 5 minutes ever.
What happened? Your phone died?
Yeah, I had to go plug it in.
All right.
There's always this week. We can try again.
We can, yeah. It takes time.
So
Honestly, a
Jessica,
Shabbat in
maybe
Jerusalem
maybe
is a
we
game
set a
changer.
goal. Maybe we set a goal for Mike that every week he doubles last week's time.
I mean, by the time we get to 24 hours or 25 hours, we'll be in our
Yeah, right
50s.
there.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like, okay, figure he sleeps X amount of hours, so he has to double that.
Oh, good one.
That was a very, very slick move.
You like that?
That's pretty good. Okay, let's bring it home. So back to Texas, or in Texas. I don't know if you've heard about this, but Texas congressional candidate Maureen Galindo? Wait, let's restart that. Texas congressional candidate Maureen Galindo is facing major backlash after posting extreme comments online stating that American Zionists should be put in detention style like punishment camps. What do you think about that? And do you think the backlash is warranted?
Shai, let me take this one first.
Yeah, this one's all you, buddy.
Are we allowed like one F word per episode?
You're allowed. Yeah, yeah.
Like, what the
You can even do
fuck?
two.
Oh, what the fuck, guys? Like, first of all, like we don't imprison anyone because of their political beliefs, because of their religion, because of even like I don't know, even their assumed or decided upon gender. Like that's just like crazy talk, right? And I'm like the last person to ever say, oh, someone's being anti-Semitic because I'm a big believer in like say whatever you want. But like that's just really bad. Like you're inciting violence. You're putting something out there that you know can't and won't happen, but you know it's gonna rile up a certain base. And I think that's horrible. I hadn't heard about this until right now, so that's why I have to drop a F bomb, but like that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it a bit further. I think first of all, I would say 99% of people who use rhetoric like this don't even know what the word Zionist means. Let's start there. You look at all these videos of people and you say, what does the word Zionist mean? And literally 99% of them cannot answer the question. Hell, 100% of them. I've never seen someone at one of these rallies who actually answer the question. So let's start there. They don't even know what they're saying. But to Mike's point, I think that you're in a position of power. You're running for office, and you are riling me. Like I'm a firm believer in freedom of speech. You could say whatever you want, but you can't yell fire in a theater and cause a stampede, right? Because now you're starting to infringe on other people's civil rights. And that's where I draw the line. So now you're talking about, anti-Semitism's at an all-time high, right? Literally the worst it's ever been. And you are inciting a segment of the population. And you're also and this is what we talked about earlier, how people float like these little trial balloons out there. And yeah, in the beginning, the backlash is huge, but then it starts becoming a little bit more socially acceptable. And then you see there are some people who actually agree with you. And then in saying something like this is like the first step towards it happening. No one ever thought in 1934, when Hitler started talking about, concentration camps and the Jews being the problem, no one ever thought they'd actually end up in gas chambers. But guess what happened 7 years later? They were in gas chambers, right? But in the beginning, everyone had Mike's reaction, right? What the F? Like, no, this is not acceptable. But phase 2 was maybe. Phase 3 was yes, right? And that's the terrifying part. Like, we need to nip this in the bud. It needs to be stopped now. Um, it's that's the part that scares me more than just one crazy person saying something like this. It's what happens tomorrow, and how many people agree with the sentiment, and that's the scary part. I am happy to say that I know you talked about the comments, but I think this, if I was reading correctly, this rep lost the race in Texas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you know what the percentage of the vote? I don't know. Is it a he or she?
I think it's a she, but I
Okay.
don't
Do you
know
know
what
the
the
percentage
percentage
of the
is.
vote that she got? Can you look that up?
I
I'm
do
just
not.
curious because that's the part that scares me. The part that scares me is if she got more than like 1% of the vote, because that's this time. And then what happens again in 2 years or 4 years when they run again? And now that it's like compound interest, right? I'm really curious to know how many people supported someone who said something like this. Because to Mike's point, that was something that was so crazy 5 years ago that people would have like ostracized her.
Right.
Yeah. So while
What's
you're
the
looking
percent?
that up, like,
Yeah.
the minute like a political speech starts sounding like it's attacking a group of Americans, right? Like she said, American Zionists.
Yeah.
We should all be concerned. Like you said, you're right. Today it's 1%. In 2 years, it's 2%. And you get the right like charismatic candidate. You're up to 20, 25. Next thing you know, this is a broadly agreed like sentiment. It's dangerous, very dangerous.
And it
Very
starts with the
what?
Jews and never ends there. The blacks are tomorrow, the Chaldeans are the day after. It never ever finishes with one group ever. And that's what people have to be aware of.
There's a fantastic book by Barry Weiss, I think it's titled How to Stop Anti-Semitism, but she talks about how anti-Semitism has developed through the years, but it's from the right political point of view, the left political point of view. So a long time ago, the worst thing you could be was um someone the best thing you could be is white, and now they've recasted Jews as they are white, but 50 years ago they didn't consider Jews white. So now they're saying Jews are Zionists to conflict them with being colonists, and they're redefining what a Zionist means. But my question, Shai, is as someone that's Jewish, what do you think about someone redefining the Jewish terms and what they mean to take on a new meaning?
With 3,000 years of history of this is not anything new, right? This is how you sway the population to see things your way. And I think the only thing that the extreme right and the extreme left agree on, it's crazy because the Nazi ideology is more just as opposed to Islam as it is to the Jews. But it's like the extreme Muslim left has now taken the extreme right and said, okay, we disagree on every single thing, including we hate each other and we will end up killing each other. That comes later. And let's just start with the Jews because the Jews are, a target that we both agree on. And in reality, it's almost moronic to think that these two groups won't end up destroying each other because they will. I think if you saw last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a shooting in a mosque where I think they
Mhm.
were like two neo Nazis showed up at a mosque
No.
to shoot up the mosque. And Was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 neo-Nazis showed up at a mosque, but if you read their manifesto, they thought that the mosque was a synagogue. And it's like, hold on a second. So neo-Nazis are shooting up the mosque because they thought it was synagogue. Like the level of ignorance. But Jessica, I'm going to answer your question more directly. I always wondered, how did the Holocaust happen? I really did. Like, how'd you get a whole society to believe something that's not even true, right? And get them to get to the point where they were raping, shooting, beheading women and children. Like, how did they get to that level of barbarism? What's the word? I don't even know.
One of those.
Yeah, something like that. But
They both work.
like to be so barbaric. How do you get like an average person to be so barbaric, right? And I see how, for the first time ever, I now see it. Like, I fully understand now how they get to that point, because they slowly just chip away at people saying this is your problem. And then it goes from the Jews to the blacks to the Chaldeans to any other minority. And you got to draw a line in the sand. You have to take a stand and push back, because you see what's happening, and the writing is on the wall for what's coming next.
Well, hopefully people like her don't end up in a position of power.
Did you look up those numbers?
We're looking
She
at
got 40% of the vote.
40%.
How much?
5,700 votes.
40% of the
40%?
vote out of 5,700, you said?
She secured more than 5,700.
It has to be some kind of small town.
Yeah, but still, she got
Yeah.
40% of the small town.
Did she make
Texas,
these
which is
comments before or after?
I think there were comments that were old that resurfaced. So they weren't
They were before.
comments that were made.
They were before. They got released before. But that's my point, Mike. 40% of this area believes what she said.
Or even just supports a person that would say something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, if they feel that way about Jews or American Zionists, then they feel the same way about Muslims. They feel the same way about immigrants. They feel the same way about, your non-American Christian, gunslinging, Republican. It's a very specific person that they like, and they hate everyone else. So it is sad.
Well, hold on a second. Didn't she run as a Democrat? Wasn't this a Democratic race?
Well,
Was she a
there you
Democrat
go.
or Republican?
She was condemned by both Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure she was a Democrat, because I know even AOC condemned her, and that was like a big thing that AOC came out against. I'm almost certain she was a Democrat, which makes it even worse, because they alleged to be supporters of minorities and all the other, like, that's their whole party platform, right? You can be a boy or a girl, you can choose your sex, you can choose whatever, but you can't be a Zionist, which they don't even know what that means in America. And by the way, did she say Jewish Zionists or just Zionists in general? Because a lot of evangelical Christians are very, very Zionistic.
I think she said American Zionists.
American Zionist. She is a Texas Democrat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very surprised
American
in
Zionist.
a
So
state like Texas.
she wants to lock up half the evangelical Christians in America, put them in concentration camps. That was her strategy.
Well, it didn't work, so we have to look into who was the candidate that did end up winning.
Yeah, but it's a scary time. It's a scary time that 40% of the people supported someone who would make comments like that.
Especially someone that's in a position of power.
Yep.
All right, let's talk money. Something
this
much
is
different.
Mike's sweet spot.
Right. SpaceX IPO and the new commercial space race. SpaceX is planning what could be the largest IPO in history, potentially making Elon Musk's company one of the most powerful publicly traded companies in the world, with a reported valuation of 1.4 trillion. Mike, what do you think?
Like, this is nuts. Okay, there was a time when like IPOs was like a you're in, to make some money in the market. So, I mean, the valuation, it's crazy. Like I don't see the value in someone like me getting into. I feel like I'm already late to the party, right? But for all I know, it could be worth $4.6 trillion in 2 years. But I mean, SpaceX, guys, it started off as just like a company that was sending off rockets every few months to now they've got like defense contracts, they've got satellites, you know, floating around the earth, providing satellite, communication infrastructure, like you name it. So, like it has become a massive company, and something that used to be a public thing, like NASA, for example, is now making its way into the private sector, and I think that's huge. And we're gonna see kind of how this private sector economy works. Um, once it goes public. But I mean, I love Elon. I know he does a lot of crazy things here and there, but I think just the story of where he was and where he is remarkable. Like, you don't. Shaya said this to me a few times. You could, when I say I'm lucky, he goes, no one's that lucky. There was a lot of skill and brains that came with it. So, um, was he in the right place at the right time? I'm sure a couple of times, but just look at what he's created. So this huge IPO, um, I think it's going to change the world. Every so often we have events like the .com era, the AI or .com, yeah, the .com boom, the AI boom. I think this is like another one of those things where private companies are going to take over like public sector things that we've been so accustomed to the public handling, and it's gonna be a new world.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't know. Have either of you tried Starlink, the internet yet? Have either of you used it?
Not
A
yet.
couple of times on an airplane.
Yeah, so I used it also on a plane, and it was so much better than anything I've ever used before in my life. And I
Hmm.
literally I said to myself, I'm like, Elon is 10 or 20 years ahead of everybody else. Now, Mike said, oh, he just launched rockets, but let me give a little context to our audience who may not know why his rockets are so much more valuable than what we were using before. His rockets are reusable. So he came
Yeah,
up with a technology that the rockets actually kind of parachute down and land on this little device in the water, and has brought down the cost of launching a satellite by like 10,000 times. I mean, it's ridiculous what he's accomplished, and it's only getting less and less expensive. Now he's talking about launching. One of the biggest challenges now is going to be power for AI data farms, right? And it's a huge issue. A lot of towns pushing back on where we can put them, where we can't put them, where we're going to get the energy from. And he's talking about putting them into space, where you have access to so much more energy and it's 24/7. And I think he's just playing 20 years ahead, the same way he was with Tesla. I mean, I don't know how many, like, what's happening now in the electric car space. He's already moved on from that, and now he's talking about robo taxis. And I don't know if you like, he's always 10 years ahead. I think it's unbelievable what he's accomplished. The fact that he's done it, really, it's not like he had like a huge running start like some other people. He was 2 weeks from bankruptcy in Tesla. I don't know if you guys ever read the book about him, but he was 2 weeks from bankruptcy. He went all in. He bet everything he had on his company. He slept on the floor in the warehouse when they were in production hell for a couple of months. He took Twitter, X, and literally walked in with a chainsaw, cut the staff in half, and somehow turned that back around profitable. Mike made a point about everyone has some luck when they have success, but you don't struck lightning 5 times in a row without a lot of brains, talent, and work ethic. So credit to him. I'll be buying the shares as soon as they go public. I think that he is literally 10 years or 20 years into the future, and everyone's playing from behind.
What are your thoughts about a private company being able to control global security with these satellites and rockets instead of having a governmental base?
Mike, you want to take that?
uh, yeah. I mean, there's still going to be regulation oversight, right? And just look at like the auto industry, for example. They're under a lot of scrutiny. They're private or well, publicly held companies, but private, like not non-government companies, and there's still a lot of government oversight over them. So that's just one small example. So I think um, I think regulation is going to be huge. I think we're going to be fine. And just to be frank, if someone was going to be the global leader or the leader in global security, I'd prefer for them to be from America. So I stand
Yeah,
behind it.
I'll answer more directly. The answer is 100%. I prefer to be a private company. I think they're a lot more
Wow.
efficient. I think they're a lot more nimble. I think that they have the ability to execute where the government doesn't. They can make decisions much quicker. And look at the scoreboard. I mean, what NASA did with, I don't know, 1,000 times the budget. I'm making up a number, but it's probably even more than that. What they accomplished and what he accomplished, you can't even. I mean, it's unbelievable. What have we been doing for the last 60 years? That he just created. Like, why did Elon Musk come up with reusable rockets and NASA didn't? What am I missing?
Right. Bill, yeah, well, if you started saving money, then they'd cut your funding. So you had to
Right.
spend it all.
Right. It's like they're incentivized not to be efficient and not to be nimble and not to be effective. And private companies are the exact opposite. You
Yeah.
can't print more money. You can't lose money and stay in business. And he has done it unbelievably well. And I think he's seeing into the future. I mean, I can't give him enough credit for what he's accomplished. I know people have issues with some of his personal views and some of the positions he takes on various different social issues. I'm putting all that to the side and saying, just from a business perspective, this man is incredible.
For sure. For sure. I
But
agree. And side note question for you guys. Did NASA land on the moon?
Jessica,
Shaya,
he's
where'd you
asking you,
start?
not me.
He said, "You guys, your guy."
No. Mike says guys because he doesn't like to identify people by their gender, because Mike is
Mm,
very pro people being able to select their gender of choice.
very pro.
I would like to believe that we did, in fact, land on the moon. I'm not that invested
Jessica,
into.
you're not running for office here. I would like to believe that they did it. Yes or no?
As an answer, what am I on, like,
Yes or
direct
no?
examination or cross examination?
Yes. No, yeah, Mike is right now on direct examination. And he's asking you, yes or no, did they land on the moon?
I think they landed on the moon. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of hostility. I might not do this again.
You said
Welcome.
that last week.
Well, yeah, exactly. You'll be back.
We'll see. What's your answer, Shaya?
Yes. Michael?
Okay. I also think we did. But like the traction of the no we didn't, um, it's picking up a lot of steam. So I don't know. I like to believe that we did the same way. I like to believe that the government approves vaccines for the betterment of society. But then again, like you hear reports that like, hey, maybe these aren't so good for you. You know, I'm not anti-vax by any means, but it's hard for me to wrap my head around why would the government lie. And I know it seems so like infantile of a thought because clearly they do, right? But like, why would they want to harm their own people? If anything, you want to harm people outside of your country. I don't know.
I think
So I
there's a
always
lot of
wonder about that,
distrust.
Mike. No, but do you think it's more that they intentionally want to harm, or do you think like they're just so inefficient that they don't make good decisions?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that goes back
do
to
you
what
think
you said
maybe?
about
Yeah.
yeah.
No, sorry, you go.
Just like what you said about a private company having better access, but managing things better. I think that could be it. You're right. Maybe they're just ill informed and slow, and they just push it through.
Yeah, and they have like the power of the government behind them. It's like when Jessica was a prosecutor, right? It's like ultimately, if she charges someone, there's a 99% chance that person's pleading guilty. So it's like out of the gate, you have a 99% chance of winning. The government decides we're all taking vaccines. They could just pass a law. You need to have a vaccine in order to do X. Like, there's not much we could do to stop it. But my question is, do you really believe that there's like this concerted conspiracy and they're looking to like, trick the people into taking it? Or is it more like we really believe this is in, the best interest? And, sometimes we get it wrong because not everyone gets it right all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. Government inefficiency is not even at its highest. It's just always high. So, and you're right. I think the blanket protection of hey, you'll be fine is gives people this inflated confidence and then it gets pushed through, and then you find out that it was bad after all, and then here we are.
So what's your answer? You think it was a giant conspiracy, or you think they're just mistaken?
Well, landing on the moon?
No, the vaccine.
Uh, no, not a giant conspiracy, but I think that they really dropped the ball there. But also, there was a lot of guidance from all the way up to kind of make it fast and get this out there. So I don't know. You remember Operation Warp Speed? Um,
Yeah.
and I'm just talking about one vaccine in particular, right? I'm not even getting into the vaccines that we had to look through for when our kids were born, and we're like, okay, well, why did they need 45 vaccines in the first 2 years? Or whatever that number is. Why every time we have a checkup at the doctor, she's coming out with 3 needles and some kind of eye drop or something that she needs to give our kid.
Yeah, I guess it's a challenging concept because I don't think any of us have access to all the actual data. I think if there was more transparency on that part, it would be helpful. You do know, like, I mean, there's obvious, right? Like, look, polio has been eradicated, measles has been eradicated, right? Like, there are certain diseases that's like the data speaks for itself. Like, these were things that our
Hmm.
parents or grandparents died of, and we're not, right? People aren't. So there's some facts, and then there's kind of like a lot of gray area between all the other vaccines and are they effective? Are they not? What's the long term effects if we even know? It's hard to
Hmm.
tell. It would be nice if there was like this transparency around actual data where it was kind of released to the public, where private companies can analyze the data and come to conclusions. So I've always thought like if there could be this huge database of every kid who ever got every vaccine with a number tied to that kid. So obviously you don't identify the individual. And then okay, what was the outcome, right? Do you see higher cancer rates among kids who don't get vaccinated for X? Do you see lower cancer rates? Right? Like we have this huge data pool, and with AI, it's probably fairly easy to analyze. And if there was one thing that I would lobby for from like what is it from Robert Kennedy, who's now the head, is make all that data public and let private companies like ours have that data and analyze it.
Hmm.
I think it's the era that we're in that we have so much access to information and being able to research things on our own accord versus our parents' generation or grandparents' generation kind of takes things at face value. Because there's a lot of trust. Well, I would say I wouldn't even compare it to my parents' generation, but in the American government, people that were living in America 50 years ago, I think there was a lot more trust in the government versus now we have our own ways to do independent research that allows us to question our government and make our own choices.
Yeah, part of that just because the tools that we're using to do our research could have their narrative and steer the direction, right, of what information we're getting. So I like for me, I'd much rather the raw data and get like third party in completely independent, like multiple third party independent companies to actually analyze the data. Because you use ChatGPT, they may have a specific view on certain topics. You use Google, whatever search engine you're using, right? Ultimately, they're training their AI models to tell a certain story. That doesn't necessarily make it true.
For
And
sure.
people are
I'm with
very
you.
trusting of it. So for me, it's like, how do we get raw data? I just want raw data going back 50, 75 years, which we have. And I would like to analyze it and say, okay, here's the output. Like
Hmm.
there are certain things that are just facts. Like, there are certain things that are facts, although nowadays the lines get blurred. But it's very hard to argue about like certain topics. Why can't we have
Yeah,
access to the data?
great question, but I have a better one.
Yes,
And I'm going to end with this question. If you got the opportunity to go to the moon, would you take it?
Oh yeah,
You'd actually go?
yeah. I'll probably cancel the day before, but as of now, yes.
I would go
Okay.
also. I wouldn't cancel. I'd go.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk to Elon and see how we can make it happen.
I would go. Yeah.
Oh
Who would you not go, Jessica?
No?
You wouldn't
No, I wouldn't go.
wow.
really. I would
I
go
feel
just
like
so I
it's
can
not
tell Mike that it happened for real. Like then maybe he'd believe it with 100% certainty. I feel like now there's some skepticism.
I think we were all
I
on the
would go
same
just for
page
that
Uh,
about it.
reason.
just I know we're closing up, but going off of Jessica's like trust comment. people that were born in the 50s were way more trusting of the government and just kind of like put your head down, whatever you say, type of people, right? And very respectable. But and they all believed that it happened. But then like here we are now and everyone's questioning it, and I think they have a right to question it. But back to your moon, would I go? Yes, but I would wait until at least 1 million people have gone just to make sure that they figured it out. And also I'll be Shaya's get one free ticket.
Oh, I was planning on
Companion
being your
pass.
get one free ticket. I would go with Mike. I would go with Mike. You get a 2-for-1 special. We try and negotiate because Mike always knows how
Maybe
to
you guys,
get the best deals.
maybe you guys will get
Maybe I'll,
matching suits.
I like that. I like that. We'll be like the Men in Black. Maybe we'll get DraftKings to cover it.
You know what? That's a good idea. How much did you lose this week?
That was a bad week. Oh my God. It's so bad.
And I couldn't even get tickets to the Grand Prix. Are you kidding me?
This is horrible. I got to follow
I
up
had
on
to.
that. We'll
No,
get
I
back
bought
to
them.
you.
I bought them
Oh,
already.
did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is it this
You think
weekend?
with? I have no idea. It wasn't for me. Going to go watch a bunch of cars drive in a circle. I'm not even sure how it works, but hey. But Jessica, is this your last week filling in?
I think so, unless I'm welcome back.
You are
It's my
welcome
last
back.
week.
And we have to thank Natasha as usual. Natasha,
Thank you, Natasha.
Go, Natasha.
shout out Natasha. Natasha's the best. All right, what are we dropping another little thing for Sarah to see if she listened?
I was just gonna ask.
Mm,
Mike, this is all you.
yeah. No, Jessica, you got to drop a little something there. Because even if she was listening, she would have stopped it by now.
We probably should have done this before versus the end.
No,
What do you got,
I need
Jess?
her commitment. Yeah.
Exactly. We want to know she's all in. Are you kidding me?
For sure. Why don't we ask her how her trip was and then see if she responds to us?
Okay, but that means on the next
Or
episode we
Mm,
can't ask her directly. We have to wait for her to say, I know you guys want to know how my trip went. What if she just happened to say that?
I feel like we could poke around a little bit to know how accurate or where that question came from.
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Right.
All right, Sarah.
Well,
We're waiting to
guys,
hear
pleasure.
about your trip.
this was fun as usual, guys. I hope you have a good rest of the day. Great week. Thanks to all our
It's been a
listeners.
pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Great
Michael,
being
good
here.
to see you. Jessica, thanks for filling in. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All righty, take care.
See you guys.